The courtroom was silent, so silent you could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights above. Everyone's eyes were fixed on one man standing in the witness box. His uniform no longer fit him perfectly, his medals dulled by years of quiet struggle. But his eyes were sharp, burning with the kind of truth that could tear an empire apart. The judge leaned forward. "Sergeant Major Ryan Cole," she said softly, "you may begin." Ryan took a deep breath, his voice trembling not from fear, but from the weight of everything he'd carried alone. "Your Honor," he said, locking eyes with the billionaire sitting smugly across the room, "the man who calls me a criminal once begged me to save his life." And in that instant, the entire courtroom gasped, because no one expected that the single dad veteran they'd accused of fraud had once been a Delta Force commander, and the billionaire who framed him was the very man whose secrets were about to explode. Ryan Cole had traded battlefields for bedtime stories. After years of covert missions in Delta Force, he'd returned home with a limp, a folded flag, and a little girl named Emma, the only thing that made his broken world make sense again. He lived a quiet life on the outskirts of Austin, Texas, working as a mechanic. He didn't talk about his past. He just wanted peace, something the battlefield had never allowed him. But peace doesn't last forever. One morning, a line of black SUVs rolled into his driveway. Men in suits poured out, flashing badges and shouting orders. Emma screamed as Ryan was handcuffed right in front of her. "Ryan Cole," one of the agents barked, "you're under arrest for corporate espionage and fraud against Carter Industries." Carter Industries. The name hit him like a bullet. It belonged to Damian Carter, a billionaire defense contractor, a man who'd made his fortune off government deals and someone Ryan had once rescued during a covert mission overseas. The betrayal felt personal. News spread fast. "Veteran turns criminal." The headlines read, "His business closed. His daughter taken by social services until further notice." For the first time in his life, Ryan wasn't fighting for his country. He was fighting for his name and his little girl. Ryan's court-appointed lawyer, a young woman named Sarah Whitman, didn't believe the evidence. "Ryan, the financial records are fabricated," she said, flipping through pages. "This isn't sloppy work. This is designed to destroy you." Ryan clenched his jaw. "Then someone powerful wanted me gone." Sarah leaned forward. "Why would a billionaire frame a single dad veteran?" Ryan's eyes darkened. "Because I know something he doesn't want anyone else to know. Afghanistan, a secret operation gone wrong. Delta Force had been sent to extract a group of VIPs from a destroyed compound. Among them was Damian Carter, then just a defense advisor. During the mission, Ryan's team discovered something horrific. Carter's private security had been selling American weapons to the same insurgents they were supposed to fight. Ryan had documented everything in a classified report. But before it could reach the Pentagon, his commanding officer was killed in a suspicious explosion. The files vanished. Carter returned home a hero. Ryan returned home with scars and silence. Now, years later, that same man was framing him for crimes he didn't commit. Jailed and abandoned, Ryan had one visitor, his daughter Emma. "Daddy, when will you come home?" she whispered through tears. Ryan smiled weakly through the glass. "Soon, baby girl. Daddy's got to fix something first." He had no lawyer, no friends, and no money. But what he had was training, and that training taught him never to surrender. Months later, the courtroom was packed. Cameras, reporters, billionaire lawyers in expensive suits. Ryan stood there, representing himself now, his voice steady, his eyes unwavering. He began by presenting what no one expected, a single hard drive. "This," he said, holding it up, "contains encrypted field reports from a Delta Force operation 5 years ago. Files that disappeared the night my commanding officer died. Files that prove who Damian Carter really is." The prosecution laughed. "Objection!" "Fabricated evidence." But when the judge ordered the drive to be examined, the truth began to unravel like a thread from a silk suit. Inside were Carter's signed communications, confirming illegal arms sales, cover-ups, and payments made to silence whistleblowers. The courtroom erupted. Carter's attorney tried to interrupt, but Ryan kept speaking, a voice breaking only when he mentioned the names of the soldiers who never made it home. "They died for this country," he said, pointing toward the billionaire, "while men like him made millions off their sacrifice." A tear rolled down the judge's cheek. When the FBI confirmed the authenticity of the files, Carter's face turned pale. Everything he'd built, his empire, his reputation, his lies, came crashing down in that moment. Ryan was cleared of all charges. Carter was arrested on federal counts of treason, fraud, and conspiracy. As reporters swarmed him outside the courthouse, Ryan ignored them all. He walked past the flashing cameras until a small voice called out from the crowd, "Daddy?" Emma ran into his arms, and for the first time in years, Ryan allowed himself to cry. "I told you I'd come home," he whispered. Months later, Ryan opened a nonprofit for veterans wrongfully accused or struggling to rebuild their lives. He called it Operation Truth. In his first speech, he said quietly, "The uniform may come off, but the mission never ends." Sometimes the greatest battles aren't fought overseas, they're fought in courtrooms, in silence, and in the hearts of those who refuse to give up. As applause filled the hall, the camera zoomed in on his medals, dull, scratched, but shining with honor, because the truth had finally won. Never underestimate the quiet strength of a soldier, a parent, or an honest man, because when truth stands against power, truth always wins.